Hi, hello. I've recently made this sweater with the nice wide sleeves, cropped, a little bit of a higher neckline. And one of my friends saw a picture of it and was like, hey, how did you make that? Teach me, please. And because it is kind of hard for me to hang out with that friend in person because of scheduling, and because I thought it would be nice for him to be able to watch it back while he's working on it, I'm just gonna do a little tutorial and then other people can also make this. I freehanded it. It is very basic. I would call it beginner friendly, but that kind of depends on how much you struggle with stuff. So, most of this is triple crochet, which is a big stitch that works up quickly. This is Hobie Fantasy Jumbo yarn, or XL, whatever they called this one. And this is made on a 10mm hook. I worked this up in a day. That says a lot to me, at least. So, the skills you need for this are, of course, a triple crochet, including triple crochet like in the round, but that's not difficult. I will tell you how. Single crochet for the borders. There is a double crochet for the neckline. And then there is the joining with a single crochet, like for this side here and the other side. Very minimal. You could sew this if you wanted to instead. You could slip stitch it. Mattress seam, I don't know. And the supplies you need. Any yarn in any size. I'm doing a thinner yarn this time. This recommends a 4 or 5mm hook. I'm using a 6mm. I think this yarn recommended an 8mm and I used a 10. Triple crochet is kind of a spaced out wide stitch already, so I think it looks nice if you size up. You don't have to. So your yarn, your hook, scissors, and a tapestry needle to weave in your ends. That's all you need. You don't need a measuring tape or anything because you measure using your body. This is doable for any size and adjustable to the level of modesty you want. If you're like, I don't want this cropped, just add more rows. Okay, we're gonna get started. Hi, okay, we're gonna start with like the yarn you have. And I'm gonna try to show you all of the stitches slowly. But if any of the stitches are difficult for you, look up a special tutorial for them. There's people that make whole 5 or 10-minute explanations on how to do a single stitch, and they are probably much better at it than me and have a better camera quality for you to see the stitches. You start with your yarn end and your crochet hook. We're going to make a chain that fits half your torso. So the front half or the back half. I make both panels the same size. If you are a very large chested person, your panels will be bigger. And if you're just very small everywhere, it will be smaller. Hold it up to your chest, don't stretch the chain too much, and make sure it fits your widest part. If you want your sweater to go down to your hips and your hips are wider than your chest, measure your hips. Simple as that, just the widest part and then leave a little bit of extra for the oversized effect. We're gonna start with a slip knot. So, hi Neo, the cat just walked over the table. So you just kind of cross the yarn over itself, pull the long end that's attached to your yarn ball through, and you have your little loopy. You're gonna insert your hook, and we're gonna do loose chains with loose tension. If you struggle with that, you want to get a crochet hook that's one size bigger than the one you're going to do the rest of your project with. That kind of forces you to have looser tension. I'm not going to do that because I am relatively confident in my ability to keep a loose chain. You just yarn over, pull through your loop, yarn over, pull through, And you keep doing that until it measures to the widest part of your front half or your back half, whatever you think is easier to measure. So I'm gonna do that real quick. This will be less stitches if you're working with a bigger yarn and a bigger hook, more stitches if you're working with a smaller yarn or a smaller hook. And it will just fully depend on your size. Very very size inclusive, I would say, because it's literally just make it to fit you. There's no detailed pattern that says any numbers. Let me see. A few more. Holding it up to my widest part. This fits my widest part, so that's about this many chains for me. And now we're going to triple crochet, which means you have your starting chain. You chain 2 extra. These can be a little bit tighter. Then you yarn over and you yarn over again. So there's 3 loops on your hook before you start anything. Then you go and count. There's the 2 chains that you just did. There's the 3rd. You insert your hook into the 3rd chain. You yarn over and pull through. Now there's 4 loops on your hook. You yarn over again, pull through 2 of them. Yarn over, pull through 2 again. Yarn over and pull through the final 2. That is a triple crochet. This little 2 chain here, we're not counting that as a stitch. That's just to get you up. So then we yarn over twice, go into your next chain stitch and just repeat that step. Oh, I already messed up there. You want to yarn over twice. Today I've been doing a lot of double crochet projects, which is where you yarn over once before inserting the hook into your stitch. I apologize if you hear the cat in the background. She is a talkative little creature. So I've done a couple of stitches here. There's some space between them and they're all about the same height. I'm gonna go until the end of the row here, and then I will show you how to do the next row. Alrighty, I am nearing the end of my first row. You can kind of stretch it out and see if you got your full chain. Here it kind of looks like I skipped one, but if you pull on it, you see that I didn't. It's just loose tension mixed with tighter tension. That'll kind of even itself out and it's not really a big deal. So last 3 stitches here. Yarn over twice. Beep boop. After a while you can get really quick at this. Do keep looking back a little bit to make sure you didn't accidentally put in a double crochet. That keeps happening to me even after making a ton of triple crochet projects. So this is the end. Because you started with a slip knot instead of a fancier solution, you end with this little bit here. At the end it'll disappear because we go over it a little bit. To start the next row, you chain 1, 2, turn the work, yarn over twice, and go into the stitch here. You do another triple crochet. So again, this little chain 2 here, that does not count as a stitch. That's just to get you up. You'll see when we get to the final row that you can pretty clearly tell where the chain is and where the actual last stitch is. I'm gonna show you on the finished one that you can kind of tell that we're chaining there instead of doing a standing triple crochet, which I think is really annoying because it creates this effect. So I crocheted single crochets along the side to attach this onto, and because we do this chain method, you can kind of see bigger gaps and smaller gaps. The rows with the chain, where you single crochet into the chain, have smaller gaps, and the other rows have bigger gaps. I think this looks nice. I think that's fun. And if it's not fun, it is really barely noticeable if you don't know about it. So don't worry about that. We're gonna continue to triple crochet along the row, and next row I am changing to my other color. If you only have one color, you will repeat this occasionally, holding it up to yourself. You want to hold it up to yourself at the shoulder and then down, and give it a little bit of extra space to rest under your chest if you want it to be curled. So I will continue to do this and return to you, in my case, at the end of this row to show you how I do the color change. And then next time when it is at length, and then I'll show you on me what that length looks like. Alrighty. Hi, okay, we're at the end of the second row, and I'm gonna show you what the last stitch looks like here because it might be confusing with the chains. When you turn your work, the entrance to the stitch that is below is kind of next to it. So this gap, wait, hold up, let me show you better. This gap here, where my thumb is, belongs to this stitch under it. So this is your final stitch and this is the chain. The stitch you want to get into is this gap next to your final stitch. Here you can see the chain 2 is this and this. This is part of the stitch. If you're not sure about this, or if you think it looks a little vague, do I need to do one more? Am I doing too many? Count your bottom row. Compare it to your second row. Is the amount of triple crochets the same? You're doing great. If it's not, figure out where that went wrong. So here, this is the chain and this is the chain, so you don't count those. My bottom row without the chain is 52, and my second row is now also 52. The figuring out where your row ends is typically where new people struggle the most, and where advanced people even still mess up on new stitches. I'm pulling out my second color right now. The center pull is not center pulling. There we go. And I'm going to do stripes. If you're doing a single color, you can just skip this. You can also start striping after the first row already, or do all different colors. Really, just do whatever you like. I'm doing this. Where's the end? Hello? I'm a professional, don't worry about this. There it is, okay. Can I please get you untangled there? Yes, wonderful, 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 amazing. So, to change colors, you're gonna back out of your final stitch. Let me undo that completely to show you what I mean. Here we have one stitch to the end of the row. You insert your hook. You start the stitch off as normal. But for this final yarn over and pull through, you're gonna yarn over with the new color. Just like hold it in your hand so it doesn't escape. Yarn over very loose, pull that through. It still moves around, so don't pull it too hard. And then you're gonna chain your 2 to start the new row, turn your work, and you're just gonna triple crochet exactly the same as you have been down that whole row. Now I like to pull this a little bit tight here so it doesn't do anything weird, and place a little knot at the first color change. Here, just one for now. I am going to repeat these color changes every 2 rows, and I do it this way so my color changes all stay on the same side as my project. Because this row is going to end on this side. Then I do another row of this cream color back down to this side, and then I can just pull up my brown to color change again on the side. And then there's going to be these little brown lines, or these little lines of the opposite color along the chain. But when we crochet single crochet over the side, that will be hidden again. So I am now going to continue these stripes. I will show you how to go back to brown, and then after that you just repeat these steps until size. Welcome back. We are on the final stitch of the 4th row where I will be changing back to brown. So let me just final stitch, start the stitch as normal, and then instead of switching to a completely loose yarn, we still have this attached here. So you want to pull that up and yarn over with it and pull through. You pull the cream tight so that stitch is fixed in place. There you go. And then you want to make sure the brown is not so tight that it restricts the stretch of the stitch, but it's not so loose that it sticks all the way out. So I think this here is nice. Pull this a little bit. Yeah. And then you just chain the 2, and that kind of sets that stitch in place. And you can do the exact same again with the cream afterward, and so on until the end. And then you end up with only this end here where you attach the first new color, and the final end of whichever color you end on to weave in, instead of a bunch of colors or a bunch of ends to weave in. Perfect. I'm gonna continue my rows until it is my size, and then I will show you what I consider to be a decent cropped length. Hi, okay, so we have this. This is 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16 rows. Now I have an even number here because I'm doing stripes that are too wide and I wanted to keep it that way. The blue one, this one, is 11 rows. You do not need to have an even number. That's fine. So the way that you measure this, especially if you are a boob haver, in which case please have it go over them, unless you're like either trying to make it a shrug or you're very, very confident. That slay, good for you. If you're trying to wear this as like the main part of an outfit, try to measure it so it's at the middle of your shoulder, and then when it goes down, it is at least 2 fingers below your chest. So it's a little bit further for me, which is good. I prefer being able to lift my arms in a sweater. The reason you want to have it on the middle of your shoulder, which is like kind of uncomfortable on your neck when you're measuring it, is because you're attaching the front and back panel and it's gonna sit there. But because of the way it's gonna sit, it's gonna be like a little bit wider at the neck and it won't feel weird. But while you're measuring it, it's meant to feel weird. Because otherwise, if you measure it like below your neck where you think the neckline is gonna start, you're missing a really big portion of your shoulder and it goes way lower, that's not where it's gonna sit. Great, awesome. So you can also see that the triple crochet is kind of see-through. You want to be aware of that when you're wearing it. Yeah, okay. So this is the first panel. This is where you first grab your scissors and you snip that. If you're only doing one color, technically you don't need to snip it. You can keep using the yarn to attach it later. But if you don't mind working in an extra end, this is easier and you can continue using the skein of yarn you were using instead of having to grab a new one. These skeins are like a little bit hollow now, but less than half. So that's great. This took me about 2 hours, a little bit less. And what we're doing now is the exact same thing, except because we want it to be the same as this panel. Instead of measuring our chain, we are counting it. Now, I just counted earlier that my rows are 52 stitches. That means that the chain I will make... Oh, I still need to snip this one too. There you go. The chain I will make is going to be 52 stitches. Plus those 2 stitches we did at the beginning to start the triple crochets, right? Remember, we scroll back a little bit otherwise. So I'm going to chain 54 and then do my first row. Alrighty, I have my 52 chain stitches here, just like on the first one. And then you do the 1, 2, and then triple crochet in the 3rd stitch from the chain. Whoa, my yarn split. That's a pain. And then you go down the chain, triple crochet all the way, count your stitches after the first row. You don't want to get all the way to the end of your panel and figure out you have one too many or one too few. You can just finish the sweater if there's only a difference of 1 or 2. Your neckline will just be a little uneven. No one's gonna notice. That's fine. If it turns out that you chained 1 too many, you can just kind of like mess around with the slip knot, pull the yarn through 1 and then pull tight again, and it will remove 1 chain. If it turns out you did 1 too few and you don't want to unravel it, start over completely, either just have the weird neckline and deal with it, or Google foundation triple crochet and do one of those. I don't do that for the full project, even though it's like stretchier, because I just really don't like doing those. And for cropped sweaters, I like that even with a loose chain like I do, your bottom cinches in a little bit. And then when I add that row of single crochet at the bottom, that strengthens that little cinch effect. And it feels just a slight bit more secure under your chest. If it's cinching in like that a little bit, don't worry. If it's like a lot and it looks like your bottom side of your project is like a full third smaller than the top, maybe start worrying about it. Yeah, I'm gonna make the second panel. I will get back to you with that when it's done, most likely tomorrow, because it's almost midnight and I need to sleep. And then I'll show you how to attach it, do the neckline, and so forth. Hi, we now have 2 panels that are the same, and it's time to show you how to assemble these. The order in which I assemble them to have no sewing, just crocheting them together, which is my preferred method. I prefer only using my darning needle to sew in the ends or weave in the ends. So the steps are going to be, we bring the shoulders together, crochet along the top until about a third, do the same amount of stitches on the other side, then crochet around the neckline, and then you can like flip this open as one big rectangle because it will be attached, and then we will single crochet along this edge on the whole thing, fold it back together like so, and then because you single crocheted along this, it'll be a lot easier to again single crochet this together, starting from the bottom until about the size where your arm fits through, and then you can just start your arm. There. That's the least amount of actual sewing, namely none. And in my experience, also the least amount of ends you need to weave in, because your side sew goes into your sleeve, one of your shoulder sews goes into your neckline. For most of the single crocheting around, you can crochet over these ends, and that's already fixed those ends. You don't have to, you can just weave in more ends. So that's the steps we're going to do. At this point, if you are unsure of your sizing, you can also pin these two together with a little stitch marker and just throw it over your head and see where it falls if you do it like that. If it looks fine, you can continue. If at the very end you realize, oh boy, this is actually too short, you can just make the little border that we do longer. Great, wonderful. I'm gonna set you up from the top view again so we can see what I'm doing. Hi, okay, so welcome to the top-down view. We have both our panels laid on top of each other with the same side up, like the actual top of it up. And it doesn't really matter which way you rotate it. I do it like one end on each side, so there's less ends to weave on each side. I feel like it becomes less visible if it's not all bulked together. We're going to single crochet along these lines. Now, we're going to do this in a bit of a silly way, and I'll show you why when we finish one side. I have 52 stitches, and I've decided that for my shoulder seam, I'm doing 15 on each side. I said I usually measure it as roughly a third, and then you can choose to do like less or more depending on how wide you want your neckline to be. I think that for this amount of stitches 15 will be fine, and it's easy to keep track of. So we're starting on this end because it's the easier end. We have our yarn. This is the brown because I like to do the contrasting stripes right here. We're gonna make a slip knot and put that on the hook. There we go. That counts as the first loop for your single crochets. We go through the first stitch, both loops, go through this first stitch, both loops. So there's 4 thingies. You get that end out of the way, yarn over and pull through all of those. Yarn over and pull through just like a regular single crochet. And then you do the same thing for the next stitch. You gotta pay attention to the back panel, because if you're looking from the front, it'll look like you need to go into the stitch that you've just been in. But if you look from the back, you can see that there's a stitch in there already, and it's easier to see what your next stitch should be. You want to do these not too tight, not too loose, so it does stay together well, but it doesn't scrunch up weirdly. And I'm doing 15 of these real quick. All right, quick check. That looks normal. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 15. All right, so now we are not going to snip this yarn because we're using this yarn to do the back or do the neckline, because the other side we're starting here, like 15 stitches in and then down to that side. And the reason why we're doing that is so it'll look the same on both sides. Because if you look at here, at these stitches from the front, it's the straight lines of a single crochet. That's looks nice. And if you look at the back of it, it's the little V's, which are the back of a single crochet. So if we were to just turn the work and do the exact same thing on this side, you'll have that asymmetrical, which is a look. I did it on blue sweater because the blue sweater is bulky yarn with multiple colors and it's impossible to tell from a distance. On this sweater you will be able to see it, so I'm doing it the proper way. Now, because we want to leave this yarn attached here, I'm gonna put that to the side, and I cut off a little scrap. Let me see. Earlier, that allowed enough stitches to do this. let's see, which one was it? This one. You can either use the other end from the skein or get a new skein. You're definitely, if you're using similar yarn to me, gonna need more than one anyway. I just happen to have cut this end off because I measured it beforehand. Slip knot, pull tight, and then we're gonna count 15 stitches in. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Insert my hook in there. Now this is just gonna mirror your other side, right? For me it's 15, for you it might be 12 or 30. I don't know what yarn you're using, I don't know what hook you're using, and I don't know how big or small you are. Any size works, you just gotta keep your own count here. And this one, and then you just do the exact same thing we did earlier. You are through both of the stitches, you're gonna yarn over and pull through, get that end out of the way, yarn over and pull through both loops like a single crochet, and then just do this down the thing. Here you're definitely gonna tell if you're doubling up on a stitch because you'll run out of stitches on one side before the other. If you don't like the way this single crochet shoulder border thingy-majig looks, you could do slip stitches or you could sew this together. I personally despise sewing clothes, out of crochet fabrics at least, so I tend to go for this way. I also just like the way it looks to have a little raised edge on this. Kind of makes it look more handmade, and that's fun to me. I want people to be able to tell that I made it myself, and if that means it's like slightly imperfect, so be it. So final stitch on both of these. Hello Neo. Thank you, baby. This one you can fasten off, so just like that. And then you return to this side and you have your neckline here. At this stage, I recommend that you kind of grab it and pull it over your head just to make sure that it actually fits. I'm doing that right now and it fits wonderfully. I love this. I'll show you in a second. Right, so this is how you kind of fit that on. This is also where you verify that it's long enough. It definitely is for me because it reaches past my crop top. You have your little shoulder lines. You see that it's wide enough. Perfect. Neck. Comfortable, a little bit of stretch, fits what. So then you continue on with this little bit to go and make the neckline. I will show you that from the top down view again. Alright, so you left this end accessible, put that back on your hook, and we're going to work on this as two separate pieces again, because this doesn't need to be attached. First we do a row of single crochets along the edge, so around, to make it look uniform, and then you can decide either, okay, that's a neckline, or you can decide I want a higher neckline, and I'll show you how to do that. I don't think I'm keeping the high neckline on this one, but I will show you how to do it. Okay, at this point I like to hold it like this, kind of the weird split. And this is where you kind of like make a judgment. You go on to the last stitch that is actively just 3. So in my case that's this one. And this is where you're going to see, do I want to place a stitch in here or do I just want to go into the next one? You can kind of tell by how it connects. I think here that this is kind of a weird connection. There's going to be that white gap. I don't like the way that looks. So I'm going back one and I'm placing a stitch behind or like in the middle of that first single crochet I did to connect it. And that's going to make it more coherent. This kind of depends on the colors you're using, if you think it's necessary. I think it looks better here, so I'm doing it. And then you just continue to crochet around. Now, here you're gonna see, here you're gonna be like, wait, Ollie, I thought we were doing this as the back side of single crochets, and now this is gonna be the front. Yeah, I don't care. I think that the shoulder and the neck part can be distinct and people will not question that they look different. Most people wouldn't even notice that stitch difference, so we're just doing it that way. If you are concerned about the way that looks, you could do this side with the yarn from this side and just add on an extra yarn here, or leave a really long end when you start it here and then have this be backwards. That's something you could do if you wanted to. Hi Neo, baby, 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 I am working here. She says hi. Look at the little kitty, she's helping. If you have your pet there, you're definitely gonna have a sweater full of fur. Good luck with getting that out. Neo, get off the table, you little menace. I'm gonna finish up this layer of single crochet. And then we're at the shoulder bit again. This is the last normal stitch. And here we kind of went on from the shoulder section, so it's already the similar, same color. I'm gonna put a single crochet in this part here, because I think that makes it look attached. And then I slip stitch into the first single crochet I did. Now if you're just doing a simple wide neckline that stays low, it's done like this. That's done. But the blue one that Neo is currently laying on had a little bit of a higher neckline, and I did that with double crochets around. Triple crochets are very tall and they become a little bit floppy if they need to hold themselves up. That's why it's double crochets instead. You could also be doing a bunch of half double or single crochets. I think that takes too long and I'm impatient. So this is how I do it. I start with a stacked double crochet. So this is, you have the loopy on your hook. You go through the stitch that you slip stitch into, you yarn over and you pull through, and then you yarn over and pull through both like a single crochet. But instead of going into the next stitch, you go back into that single crochet you just did. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. And it's like you did 2 single crochets on top of each other, and that's going to function as our first double crochet. If you're like, what the hell did you just do? You can chain 3 and it will function the same. I just think this looks better, so I do that. And then you're just going to yarn over and then go through the loops, yarn over, pull through 2, and then the final 2. And do that all the way around. There should be no weird sections here because you already did all the single crochets around. So it's just double crochets all the way for as many rows as you want your neckline to be tall. You could do 2, you could do like 15 and fold it over like a weird turtleneck. Just kind of fit it all in between and decide what you think is comfortable, you know? I think I am not gonna actually do this on the sweater. I think this would look nicer with the low neckline, so I'm gonna take this out again. For the blue one that I'm using as the example here, I did 2 or 3 rows of double crochets, and then I did 1 more row of single crochet at the end to kind of cinch it in. So that's just like what we did here, but then on top of your double crochets. Oh, that's too far. For every round that you use here, you slip stitch into the final stitch, like we did with the single crochets, and repeat that start. You can turn your work, but you don't have to. It's not going to be enough stitches where it looks weird if you don't. So I'm gonna say this is perfectly fine for a neckline here. There we go. And then this is half of your sweater done. there's the neckline, hole for your head, and the shoulders are attached on this line here. Now, we turn it sideways. This is your front panel or your back panel, and this is the opposite side. We're going to start on one side here, and I'm going to choose which color I'm using for this. I think I'm just going to stick to the brown. So, once again, you make a little slip knot and you put that on your hook and you pull tight, but not super tight. And then you go and find your first little area here. It's here's your chains from the bottom, and then the chain of your very first stitch, this loop here. This is where we single crochet into for the first stitch. So you yarn over, pull through, yarn over, pull through both. And then we have, let's see, on this side we have the chain. Every chain and every triple crochet we single crochet 2 into. So this is the chain here, and we just go 1 and 2 into the chain. And then here you have the part where your actual stitch is, right? A little gap, a little actual hole. You single crochet 1 into that. Then here we are on the triple crochet, 1, 2. Here we are on the little actual gap, 1, and that takes care of the ends that are visible here. Then we have our triple crochet here again, or no, this is the chain, oopsie, 1, 2, the actual gap again, 1, and you repeat this until you get to the shoulder connection. You can already kind of see what I pointed out on the blue sweater here with the big and the small gaps. I think this is a nice pattern. If you wanted to, if you're like one of those people that really like bows and corset type things, you could lace through this because it's going to be on both sides. You could put a little ribbon through this. I think that might look nice. Alright, we're approaching the shoulder here, so it's time to start paying attention to what we're doing. I'm crocheting over this end here too. You could have done that at the shoulders. I forgot because I was trying to show you how to do it. I usually crochet over as many ends as possible, so you don't have to actually weave them in. Because weaving in ends is kind of a pain. Oh, not a double. Single crochet. It's kind of hard to crochet while explaining what you're doing when you're very much used to winging it, but the things we do for our friends, eh? Let's see. 2. And then this is another one of those gaps where you put 1 in, and then we put 1 extra through our connecting thingy. So you have that first single crochet, you just push through that, kind of like a sideways stitch, yarn over, pull through, single crochet, and then there's the next 1 gap here, and you crochet into that one, and then it's right back to 2 in each bigger section, 1 in all of the small sections, all the way until you're down at the corner here. And then we're gonna do something interesting again. Alrighty, and then here after you have the 2 in the chain, or the single crochet, I think this was the triple crochet, sorry. You go into the first stitch, just like we did at the start. And we're not going to tie this off because we can keep using the same yarn to assemble it. So we have a nice single crochet line along the length of our thing. And here's the shoulder seam. So when we fold this here, we basically have a nice little line to do the same thing we did for the shoulder. We have our yarn here at the bottom. Let's see, it is right here. And we have a bunch of single crochets that we can single crochet into the together. I am so good at words. So we put our hook right back into that loop that we left there. Make sure it's facing the correct way. We chain 1 to turn. And then we fold this together. So we locate our first stitch here. That would be this one. We see our first stitch here. And we just yarn over, pull through everything, and single crochet. And then there's the next stitch, and so forth. And you do this until you have enough space left for your arm. So this requires some fitting on in between. And you're going to want to count that at the end to make sure you do the same on the other side. Because having asymmetrical sleeves is kind of a pain. Could be quirky maybe, but it's not what we're going for. This is on the blue one. I think I had like 15 stitches here. I think I'm going to be doing a few more than that, just because there is way more stitches available. I'd say you want to do about half, depending on the size of your arms, of course. For me, it's a little bit past half, I think. I'll fit it on to make sure in a bit. There. I'm going to fit this on now. I'm going to leave a really long loop here so I don't accidentally unravel it. I'm going to throw this on over my head and with my arm through one side. Let's see how that fits. I'm actually going to take out a few stitches because it's tight at the armpit and that is not fully comfortable. So I'm going to take out, let's see, until about here. So there. Fit that again. Yeah, that's comfortable. Perfect. Now we're going to start triple crocheting on the sleeves. So we still have our yarn attached here and we're just going to start in that same color. For me, if you're doing the whole thing in the same color, everything has been the same color. For me, it's striped. So we have our working yarn and we have 2 sides of sleeve, or armpit hole this is technically. We are going to be triple crocheting. So we gotta start. Now, right, remember how for the neckline I said you could do a standing double crochet? You could do a standing triple crochet, which is the same idea. You just do a single crochet, insert your hook into it, and do that again. There, that works. I think this gap here becomes a little bit big and noticeable at that point. So then I don't see an added benefit on doing that over just chaining. I don't like to chain 4 or whatever and count that as a triple crochet. I chain 2, just like I do on the sides when turning, and then I just pretend that doesn't exist. So I chain 2 here, then I yarn over twice and I go into this first stitch here. And then I just go all the way around, just like we did for the body part. It's gonna take a second. Okay, getting to the end of the row here. You gotta make sure you get that final stitch in, right before where you chained. So this one, and then right in here, because we started next to the weird patch. So right in there, and then you slip stitch into the first stitch. We're ignoring this chain. This chain is just to get you up. Slip stitch into here. There you go. And then you chain 2. And then you turn around your work. If you don't turn around your work, the little line that this chain here creates is going to go all the way diagonal across your sleeve. And if you turn your work, it's just going to stay on a straight line, which I think personally looks much better. So now you're working on the inside, basically. You're gonna triple crochet back into this stitch, first stitch here, and this right here, where you just slip stitch into, is gonna be your final stitch. You're gonna repeat this until your sleeve is long enough. I've just decided on the spot that I'm doing one sleeve entirely brown and one sleeve cream. You could do stripes, you could do even more colors. You could stop the sleeves at your elbow, you can stop them at your wrist, you can stop them all the way past your hand if you want them to be really oversized. Just fit it on a couple of times while you're working on it. I will get back to you when I have my sleeve worked up, and then I'll show you how I finish it. It's just a row of single crochets at the end. Then after that, we're doing the exact same thing on the other side with the single crochet across, single crochet closed. Start the sleeve, do the entire sleeve, row of single crochet at the end, fasten off, weave in ends. And when that is done, we're doing a little bit of a thingy-majig at the bottom. I will see you when this sleeve is done. Good luck. Alrighty, that sleeve is long enough. It looks a little bit weird before like washing it, blocking it, whatever you want to call it. Don't worry about it. Also, that's going to be in your armpit. So with this, you can choose to leave it like this. You can choose to do a row of single crochets in the same color. I'm going to do a single crochet row in the other color. Moving to the top down view again. Alrighty, I'm going to first be playing Mega Yarn Chicken with the other sleeve. I have another skein of this, don't worry about that. I just want to not find that. The cream, white, the other color. Yeah. We are going to have a look-see here. For the final loopy majig, pull that yarn through, chain 1, turn work. Now I'm gonna tie a little knot here because I don't want this to be going anywhere. There. And I'm gonna crochet over my ends so I don't have to weave them in later. Other stitches that might look cute here: half double crochet, a picot stitch, a little scallop type effect thingy. Alright, at the end of the row, final 2 stitches, and slip stitch that together. And there you have a sleeve. The That's that's a full sleeve with a little border. Now you do the exact same thing on this side. Make sure that you start on the same side out with your treble crochets, triple crochet, whatever you want to call those, and that you do the same amount of rows, and then your border is also facing the same way. For me, the little V stitches are in the inside and the little straight line ones on the outside. If you want to do the other way around, then don't turn your work before starting. That's 2 sleeves, both with a little opposite border on it. And now the final step, besides weaving in ends, which I already have done, is put in the little single crochet border around the bottom. That's the final step, and it's optional, just like every step is optional. Top down view time. Alrighty, bottom of the sweater. Yarn that you want to make your little border with. Slip knot on the hook. I think it's best to start in like not exactly the corner, but close to the corner, so it still blends in. But you don't have to put in a bunch of effort to figure out what the actual center of that is yet. And then you just single crochet all around. We've done that before, it's not difficult. Alrighty, we're nearing the weird little seam we have going. So there you're gonna do the same as when we went along the sides, and that is just do as many as you think it needs to look good. So I think I need to put one in between here and in between here. And then continue on the other side. And slip stitch into where we began, and then that is finished. Weave in those ends and you've got a sweater. Right, so that's how you make these. Any yarn, any size, just measure to your shape, and good luck. Feel free to comment if you have any questions. I am sure that this was chaotic and not actually very clear. Most of the things that are unclear are things that you can look up as their own skill though. So like the stitches all have detailed tutorials. Yeah. Have fun. Feel free to tag me on Instagram or Tumblr or something if you make one and you want me to see. Bye.